Well, we saw the North Idaho market go as one of the hottest, if not the hottest, real estate markets in the country. But what's going on today? With these smaller markets, you can see kind of screeching halts, and what you see nationally across the news isn't pretty. But there are some major advantages in a market such as North Idaho. So if you are still thinking of moving, relocating, and buying a house or investing, you're not going to want to miss this video. So stay tuned. What's up, everybody? I'm Jackson Wilkey.
Conor Hammons.
That's right. We are the Living in North Idaho team. If this is your first time to this channel and you want to learn everything about what it's like to work, eat, sleep, live, play, and about those advantages of the market, make sure you tap that subscribe button. Click the bell so you're notified every time we do a new video. And we honestly get so many phone calls, emails, texts every day of people moving, relocating here. We absolutely love it. So thinking about moving anywhere in that North Idaho area, make sure you give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email. Days, nights, weekends, we got your back when moving to North Idaho. See, Ham, we've been seeing a little bit of a shakeup. Obviously the news 6 months ago, the interest rates, the inflation kind of came to a screeching halt, but we've had, a little bit of increase of activity lately. And, living in this small town our whole lives, we've seen just massive, ups and downs. But for 3 to 4 decades, this market has just continued to rise. So no matter how hard it gets, it goes up. So there are advantages, especially during times like this of uncertainty when you don't have a lot of the corporate structure and the jobs. You can see these peaks and valleys a little bit more. So we're going to break down these major advantages you have in a market like this into the top 3. The third one is the biggest one we have. So make sure you stay tuned to that. Advantage number 1 is, let's just talk about kind of the luxury, the $1 million plus $2 million. What's going on with that and the advantages of that, Conor?
Yeah, I mean, and you right off the top, you talked about the macro in terms of North Idaho and how it's been such a destination for 30 years, ever since even we were growing up. But obviously, it kicked into an insane market when COVID hit. Obviously,
Right.
there's many reasons that happened. We had political refugees. We had COVID, people that just wanted to get out of the states that they were in for whatever reasons they wanted to. But that $1 million range that we used to see growing up, it used to be kind of like, whoa, that's an insane house, right? Like crazy house
I
on
never
the
even
water.
stepped in foot in one growing up.
Me neither. Me neither. And so it was a crazy time where with that much influx of people moving to the area, it just pushed these homes up and up and up, obviously with the appreciation the last 2 years. And so touring, buyer after buyer, a whole team going through homes in the $1 million range, it was kind of like, what the hell is happening here?
Yep.
Right. Cause you go into a house and you're like, okay, this is $1 million house now. And it was just a new normal for us. It's not sustainable, right. For it to go that crazy and that quick. And so what's happened, obviously, all the way around the country with the interest rates coming so quick and kind of putting a halt to buyers, it's finally softening that market, that 1 million to 1.5, where we have a lot of inventory in that range. And it's kind of jolted some sellers back into reality with the lack of traffic. So it took about a couple months, I think, because I really think June and July is when those rates really started to impact buyers. Those 2 months, people were still listing houses in that range, 1 to 1.5, that probably should be $800,000 homes, based on affordability, right?
Right.
Interest rates go up. What you could afford for $1 million now you can afford for 800,000. So I think right now we're starting to see that actual adjust down. And so in that $1 to $1.5 million range, we have a lot of active listings, and you have the opportunity now to buy a home, that's really undervalued, in my opinion. Some of them, when the seller has motivation, when they have to sell, we've been getting a lot of people under contract, quite a bit under asking price, and it's nothing we saw in the last 2.5 years, that's for sure.
Yeah. And again, viewers, you might be sitting there going, well, why the heck would I want to get into a softer market right now? Well, the advantage is, like we've talked about, for 30 to 40 years, we've seen this place continue to grow.
Yep.
And those are some of those areas that kind of get hit during these times. And so the sellers a year ago, I mean, it was a sign in the yard and 50 offers. And so, you guys, the viewers coming in, you were going up against 30, 40 people for $1 million homes, which we're telling you, we're local North Idaho people. Like, that's insanity to us. And now it's kind of going backwards. So we will continue after these interest rates go back down, whether it's a year, 2 years, whatever. That market's gonna sky right back up. But a year ago, you were going above the selling price, so it was a lot of cash out of pocket. There's a lot more programs and incentives now, and you can get into these nice big North Idaho homes with minimal competition under value. So that's it. We realize a lot of you are coming here to make North Idaho home. So if you're going to live in this thing 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, like, we'll see it go back up.
Yeah, and it was the nature of the beast the last 2 years. Honestly, I mean, a lot of people bought homes that they didn't love, right? They just they're like, okay, I guess this is available, and it's we're
Kind
up
of.
against, because we were up against 10 to 15 offers every time, and now you have the luxury of inventory. I mean, when people that we work with from this channel, all year long, they'd come up here and they're like, okay, let's create a list of houses to see, and I'm in the $1 to $1.5 million price point, and I'd say, well, okay, I can't send you that list until the day you're flying up here, because there's no reason to. You get up here and they'd all be gone, all be pending, and then once they got here, we'd sit in the conference room, we pull up listings on the big screen. It's like, okay, well, we have 2 houses we can look at while you're here for a week.
Man.
Right?
Man.
So you can't have it both ways. Now we actually have, I come up here, we can tour 10 to 15 good houses in that price range.
Yep.
And you can actually pick the home you love, not just the one that's available and are fighting, 30 people for. So I tell people all the time, you can't have it both ways, right? You can't have it where you can not go against people in competitive offers and low interest rates. Because when we had those low interest rates, it was just, a bloodbath out there for buyers.
And I think our favorite thing, is just being there to assess your situation, because if you're moving, relocating, and need a house, that's your situation. Don't listen to what the national news tells you, that the bottom fell, it's the worst time. There's never a worst or never a best time. It's, hey, you're moving, you need a house. Well, that's what we do. We've had 8 conversations last week with people, and 4 of them we advised, it's not maybe the right time right now, but 3 or 4 of them, you just put 3 into contract. Like, there are a lot of people coming and saying, wow, this is nice. I was here a year ago, and we decided to wait, a year. So that's the one thing we want you to know, is that we're advisors at the end of the day. We're the real estate doctors over here. It's just call us with your problems. We'll talk about it.
Yep. We have a pulse on what's going on. Yep.
Number 2 biggest advantage is something that was the toughest market, which is just flop, but it's kind of that prairie suburban house. Talk about where it is, what it is, and why it's a great advantage.
Yeah, man, it's crazy how quick that flip switched and the reason it did is because when interest rates go from 3 to 7%, this is the zone of house that got affected the most, because it's typically, when you're looking at a house in the suburbs next to schools, parks, walking trails, within that $500,000 to $800,000 price point, it's typically a family buyer. Not all the time, but those people got hit the hardest because with the interest rates and getting a loan. And so, what used to be, 2 years ago, the last 2.5 years, with Greenstone Homes, Architectura Homes, Hayden Homes, all these builders, they're like, we're not doing pre-sales anymore. You can't pick a lot. You can't pick your home style. You can't even tell me what type of color of tile you're going to want on the backsplash. And also with that, you need to be on a wait list. You're number 65 to get into the new phase of this development. So it was brutal trying to get buyers into a new construction home in those prairie neighborhoods. Whereas now, Ben on my team, Ben Greenstead, we used to be listing agents for a new construction builder in the Post Falls Prairie. And we laughed because we texted each other the same day. We got an email, I think it was in July, that was an e-blast from one of the big builders in town that said, buyer closing credits, 10 grand offered. And we're like, It's new day. It's a new day. We can finally work this new construction market. So honestly, with new construction, you can finally negotiate, right? You can pick the lot you want. You can pick the finishes you want. You can buy a pre-sale, which was unheard of the last 2 years. And then with reselling clients in those new construction neighborhoods, I mean, they're getting crickets in terms of showings,
Yep.
and it's price points are coming down. So a lot of times, if someone there's life situations where you have to sell a house, you might be being relocated for a job. We've been finding situations where you can go under asking price by quite a bit, not be up against any competition, have an inspection. What inspections were just like not negotiated the
Yep.
last 2 years. You could have them, but you're not going to be getting any credits. And so it's just a big opportunity if you again, if your overall goal is to move to North Idaho and this is where you want to be long term, huge opportunity there.
Yeah, and so again, when you think about this, let's put this in a scenario.
Yep.
Those interest rates, if they do come down in a year to 2 years, and you might be like, well, what if they don't? You can look at all the historical graphs, and everybody says the 1980s it was 17%. Well, in 1983 it was also 3%. So there's just major ups and downs as this market corrects. So now, when we talk about an advantage, new construction right now, these builders have a lot of inventory they want to get off their plate. The number one thing you do is you get representation because we just mentioned, inspections. You might be, well, everything's brand new. There's more wrong with new construction homes sometimes with sewer pipes being broken, whatever, that we will get fixed and we'll get closing costs, all these things that Conor and the team can negotiate. But as
Yeah,
things start to
you can
turn,
negotiate.
those are
Yeah,
the houses that shoot up in value.
yeah, yeah. No, it's true. I mean, you can negotiate new construction again, and that was not the case
Right.
the last 3 years. And I think it's important to remember that you date the rate and you marry the house. So like if you're finding a house that you want to live in and by a school that you want to be by and a location, and obviously you don't know if you don't know that coming in here from out of state, but that's what we're the experts to help you with. Who knows what's going to happen? We don't have a
Yep.
crystal ball. I think if rates normalize a little bit next year, and even if they come down into this, drop into the sixes and drop into the fives, people will start jumping in the pool again because the one thing that's consistent is people want to move here.
Yep.
And I think right now it's a good, prices are coming down, negotiations happening. So who knows when that switch is going to get flipped again.
Yeah, so again, we're going to get to that top advantage here in a second. But again, the scenario is either A, you're going to get that 2 to 3% interest rate, which is just amazing. And it looks like you can afford this $600,000 house. But when you get here, you realize that $600,000 house has 50 people offering on it, and it's going to go for 700 plus. So
Yeah.
that took you out of that. So that 2 to 3% looks incredible. It's sexy. But now a 6 to 7%, you have a full sea of choices of houses. So and you can most likely get that house for under asking, and
Yep.
most importantly, less money out of pocket. This is when there's advantage, come with lending with 3% down, 5. So keep your cash in your pocket for a recession, for inflation, and
Yep.
stay cash strong. So those are things that you just got to weigh out and that we have conversations about every day. The third biggest advantage, us living there and seeing. We were just talking about before we shut the. God, I wish we'd have bought houses at this year, and oh man, I wish we'd have bought houses this year. There's a
Yep.
lot of these opportunities where you go, man, I wish I would have bought some North Idaho houses because for 40 years it has erupted. And right now, cash investors, let's talk about that advantage of just having cash in this market.
Yeah. Cash is king in this market for obvious reasons. Everyone, it seems that everyone who is, heavily financed is sitting on the sidelines, just kind of pumping the
Yep.
brakes. And so because of that, we had a lot of inventory at the end of summer. So things are coming down. And like motivated sellers, again, you have the opportunity to come in low and I feel get some really solid deals. It's just, I think I closed a house. I listed a house in, at the end of May. I
Mm-hmm.
think we got it under contract into May and listed it for 599 and it sold for 725. Had 19 offers on it. Just got a house under contract with a buyer. They just closed for 100,000 under asking. So the time right now to get a deal, especially if you have cash, because there's just not as many buyers and you have the major advantage.
Yep.
And again, at 7%, I think that's scaring a ton of people, of buyers that are loan heavy. Whereas that's kind of being normalized. We've been between like 6.5 and 7. I think it went up to 7.1, at least in our local market while we've been tracking it. And it's been there for a little while now. And even though a 5.5 to 6 isn't like as good of a rate as you would think it would be last year,
Mm-hmm.
when that number drops down from 7, buyers that are kind of waiting and on the fence, they're going to be like, oh, let's jump in now. So
Five is
that's
juicy.
going to look, yeah, 5.75 is going to look really good to a buyer that's been seeing 7 for 2 months.
Yeah, and so why we say it's the biggest advantage right now that you don't think about is that you would think during the last year or two that cash was king, but it wasn't, because if you think about it, someone listed a house, let's say $700,000, and you have $700,000 cash. At the end of the day, that seller's like, nah, I got 15 other offers for, 800, 850. So I'm going to make $100,000 to $150,000 more, even though it's a loan program, and that interest rate is only 3%. So the chance of that deal falling out is minimal. Right
Yep.
now, anybody who's using 3% or 5% down too, and maybe you have a big jump on new construction or on your interest rate and new construction, that could make somebody fall out. So now, we're advising our cash clients of like, look, we can go in and negotiate shorter closings. Like, this house will close, and sellers may take a little bit less money on their house if it's cash and they know it'll close
A
because
lot.
they're in a situation.
Yeah. A lot less, honestly. Like right now, because sellers are seen in the market with the interest rates fluctuating, and there's been more backing out of contracts, more
Mm-hmm.
terminations, and like earnest money disputes. Pretty much because buyers, you get to the inspection and then they see the market, they see the PR, the national news. They're like, we're gonna back out. And so sellers are very, very skittish right now on loan buyers because they know, it's going up and down. And when they see a cash offer come in, it's like it holds so much more weight right now because they
Yep.
know that buyer isn't going to care if the interest rate pops up, 0.25, and then, it doesn't matter to them. So huge advantage.
Yep, and just the last thing too is when interest rates went down, and this is a national stat, and we saw it big time in North Idaho. 30 to 40% of the acquisitions were happening from investors because they were getting 2% interest rates too. So,
Yeah.
that was soaking up a lot of the inventory, and as these interest rates go up, those investors kind of dropped out. That's what we're seeing as well. So,
Yep.
cash has a different advantage than you would think in the hot markets. It's actually these markets where cash is king, and then hey, maybe 2-3 years down the road, you get that 4% or 3% interest rate. You do the refi, have that low interest rate, pull out your cash, invest. That's kind of what we're seeing happen. So
Yep.
these are the conversations every day we have. Every situation's different, and we love having those. There's zero reason you shouldn't reach out and just have those conversations to get prepared. So the only way to do that is you got to reach out to us and give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email. Days, nights, weekends, we got your back when moving to North Idaho. And until the next video, we'll catch you later.